Hey everybody, it's Phil Struzula from Select Software Reviews, and today I'm joined by Alex Powell of Reward Gateway, who has just concluded what seems to be a really interesting employee engagement sort of survey, some high-level statistics that I think will be really interesting for people who are building out their employee experience, their people strategies for 2023. Alex, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Phil. Really excited to be here and talk about data, hopefully in a way that will help people in 2023.
Yeah. Do you mind just sort of kicking things off with what you did, how you put the survey together, what sort of like demographics you targeted, what sort of questions you asked?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's a study of about 3,000 people across the world. It's 1,000 in the US, 1,000 in the UK, and another 1,000 in Australia, which are the major markets we work with closest. We wanted to get a sense for the trends in the workplace because we know things have been changing and moving, whether it's the employee experience or the experience of HR leaders trying to support those employees, that there has been a lot of change. So we're focusing on everything from what's the deal with cost of living, what percentage of your rewards, if you get them, will go towards essentials versus luxury items, a sense for how the financial changes that are happening in economies are making a difference. But we always focus on what are the biggest influencers to employee engagement? What are employees looking for? And this time we took it's not unusual, but it was a special focus on the challenges that HR is facing. We've heard that anecdotally that there are lots of things, whether it's I have less people than I did, I have less budget than I did, I don't know how to plan. So we also asked some questions about what might be getting in the way of HR leaders to feel confident that they have a plan for 2023.
Awesome. Sounds really interesting. I'm excited to learn a little bit more about the results. I think
Yeah.
the first thing that piqued my interest is this whole cost of living question. I
Mhm.
think a lot of people are thinking about salary, especially in a remote world where people have moved to different geographies, or maybe you're hiring in different geographies. How do you guys like think of philosophically about cost of living changes or how that changes the rewards that employees should get?
Well, I think, yeah, first of all, it's kind of a general financial well-being piece. What we found in previous surveys is that when we asked people, was your ability to focus, is your engagement at all impacted by by the cost of living, by inflation? And we found almost half of people were saying that they were distracted, right? They were thinking about, can I go in, can I commute into work, or should I stay home? Am I making different choices about what I'm going to spend my money on? Especially in the UK, we're seeing a third of people were saying they were cutting back on essentials and on food in order to support what has been a real challenge or a crisis over there. But also asking about, I think, flexibility is important for employees right now when it comes to rewards. So we asked, what are you going to spend it on? And like I said, 75% of people are saying, if I get a reward, I want the ability to spend it on essentials. We had a client who said they were putting together a reward and recognition plan for their call center, and people said if I can't buy diapers with the rewards,
Mm.
it's not going to feel helpful. So they
Yeah.
really needed that flexibility.
Yeah. You could imagine somebody, it's like, hey, you can have a spa day, but it's like, well, I can't afford gas. So like, I don't really feel good about getting a massage, which makes a lot of sense. And that
Right. And then
flexibility is important.
it starts to feel like, do you even know what's going on with me? If you're giving me
Right.
a spa day and I'm stressed and uncomfortable about whether I'll be able to buy the gifts I want to buy for my kids, or like you said, drive, to work when I really should, or should I stay home? That it disconnect. It creates a disconnect. And I think what people are looking for more and more is to feel like the manager in the company cares for them.
Mm.
And that's another way to show it.
Do you do you have any data around how having these stresses about like basic essentials impacts productivity or employee retention or something that sort of gets to like the meat and potatoes ROI of doing one of these programs?
Yeah, well, I think generally we asked people, if you look at the last 3 years, right, there's economy, but there's also changes, pandemic, there's, a lot that's been happening. And we asked people, what have you been negatively impacted by the last few years? Yes, and if so, how, or no? And 70% of people said yes, there are lasting negative effects of the last few years, with the largest percentage being workplace well-being. 39% of people said that's the biggest hit I've taken is how I feel. And we see that in Gallup just came out with 28% of people in the US say they're very frequently or often burnt out. So I think whereas well-being used to be something we thought of as a extra special over the top thing some companies might do if they were really people focused, it's at the core of what we do. And that we also learned that 70% of people said their workplace well-being would improve if they were thanked more. So this culture piece that used to be the icing on the top, something that only some companies did is incredibly is very much what people are focused on. For example, we also learned 78% of people said 78% of people that were looking to leave their job said they would stay if they were thanked more.
Hmm.
So recognition, which can sometimes feel catch as catch can if I have time, yes, I'm doing it, but it's offhand, it's not strategic, can drive how people feel about their well-being, which if we want to support our people from a human perspective is important. But also in this time when people are concerned about, hey, I can go anywhere I want. I can work out of my house, so I don't need to be restrained by geography anymore. 8 and 10 people who were looking to leave said recognition would make a change for them. So we definitely need to pay attention to the fact that people are more or need more appreciation and support when it comes to well-being, and that will drive retention.
I know you guys had a couple of pretty interesting statistics around employee burnout. I think it's 84% of employees surveyed said that burnout has an impact on their mental health and well-being. And then almost half of people said that they feel burnout frequently. Do you have a sense for how that starts to show up? Like if you have an employee that is feeling burnout on a somewhat regular basis, like do you have any information about like when does that lead to decreased productivity? When does that lead to somebody taking leave of absence or just joining another company?
Well, I think so it's interesting. It was 2019, I think, when the World Health Organization classified burnout as worthy of description, right? And it's when your work is interfering, and some of the outcomes of burnout are cynicism, right? So if there's a problem, maybe I'm more likely to get angry than solve it.
Yeah.
And I think we can all relate to if you're working with someone who, when something goes wrong, their response is to blame or give up, how big of an impact that has. It also impacts how we treat other people, right? So there's negativity, there's cynicism. So if in this day and age, collaboration and connection is so important, and we may not be sitting next to each other like we used to be, right? So if I'm sending someone an email or a text, or I'm on a Zoom call, they're less likely to feel connected to me these days than they used to. And then if I'm suddenly acting in a way that is disrespectful and maybe even unintentionally disrespectful because I'm so overwhelmed, that can cut off a lot of connection, prevent collaboration, and the ripple effect, right? So the research also shows 1 in 4 people said that one of the lasting negative effects of the last few years is I'm less likely to go above and beyond. You
Mm.
know that the workplace well-being, the burnout is all tied in. People are taking a step back. My well-being is suffering. People around me are burnt out. 1 in 4 are saying, I'm just not going to do what I used to do. And then there's the additional 75% of people that are still attempting to go above and beyond, but they're carrying more weight and they're likely experiencing some of the same effects. So it just paints a picture of a workforce that is in need of support. But also, we know that more than half of HR leaders surveyed said they're finding the changing needs of employees really challenging to meet. So it's really important. the word unprecedented is batted around so much, but here we are unprecedented. And we've seen just so many different things hit us, the great resignation, the pandemic, burnout, all of these things that I think it's never been more important for companies to take their people seriously, whether that be productivity and concerns about quiet quitting and burnout, whether that be turnover and making sure you're keeping people and not having to train them and then have them leave, all of those, and just generally what kind, like I said, productivity, are they generating the kinds of results they used to, or are they coasting? Which, if someone's struggling, that could be self-care to coast. And so we also can't lead with accountability. Sometimes we need to lead with compassion.
Yeah, I think those are all really awesome nuggets. One thing I was also curious about was around remote work.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people have thrived working remotely, ditch the commute, like closer to family, et cetera. And a lot of people have really struggled. And I was wondering if you guys asked any question that kind of got specifically at remote work and how it's tied into burnout, employee engagement, et cetera.
Yeah, we did. We differentiated the results between people who work remotely, work hybridly, and work on location, and the differences weren't very remarkable. I think all different populations are experiencing it. I think it's just different challenges. People who are working remotely, when Gallup said 28% of people in the U.S. Say they're very often or frequently or always burnt out, the top reason was workload. So if you're working from home, maybe the people around you are burnt out, you're feeling put upon with what you're doing. And it's the story we've been hearing where, okay, let me just go eat dinner with my family and then I'm going to try and get this stuff done. So we don't have that separation if we're working from home. But also the people on site, my husband works on site. So he is dealing with the fact that he sees me, I'm home. It looks like I've got a sweet deal, right? But he gets to leave the house and I'm like, you know what? You eat lunch somewhere other than our refrigerator. Like that sounds like a sweet deal to me too. So I think there's challenges in all of the different populations. And what's adding to it is that we all are removed. We are disconnected. So I have unique challenges. People that are on site have unique challenges, but especially in organizations that are hybrid, where you've got both populations, we're getting a lot of questions from clients on how can I make recognition, reward, benefits fair to the people in the building and also to the people at home so that it doesn't feel like some people are super special and others have been left behind.
One of the unique things that I deal with sometimes is when my 10-month-old wakes up and starts screaming in the middle of the afternoon, as is happening now. But the last point is really interesting. Like how do you create a quote unquote fair reward scheme between those two populations?
Well, I think we're lucky because we are in a digital age. I think that with everyone having devices on them or around them at various times, that's going to be one of the ways we're seeing more and more clients look to build a digital workspace, right? So if it used to be that your culture was on the walls and in the halls, now you need a place where that culture can live. So we're seeing communications in a centralized place, recognition that can be seen by everyone, really trying to tear down some of those physical walls between where we work and what we do and share it out in a way that everyone can see, whether you're checking your phone for updates in the office or whether you're home and checking your phone, that the workplace being online means it's more readily accessible to everyone. So for example, our CEO every Monday does a blog post or a video, and that allows us to feel connected. In fact, never lived in the same city as a Reward Gateway CEO, but I feel more connected to our Reward Gateway CEO than I have at any other company because they are on my computer, on my phone, posting updates on a weekly basis. And that has really helped. In fact, we've seen remote employees. I expected the results would be that remote employees were looking for increases in communication, but we're actually seeing that stay stable because leaders have been so creative about reaching out and connecting because they've had to be. So I think the more we can get equity through this shared space, this shared digital space, the better off we all are. If we try, of course, you're going to do things in the office, like maybe you need to have um, Friday lunches in the office, or you need to set up car detailing in the parking lot for people who are driving because they do have a different experience than those of us that are home. But the more we can kind of get that third space where everyone can be together, I think the easier it is to have that equity.
I love it, and I love the CEO weekly email or video. There's actually a really phenomenal newsletter that I subscribed to called Friday Forward, which was this one CEO, Bob Blazer, who's here in Boston, his weekly CEO to his team to sort of inspire them and like a parable, etc. And they just sort of started forwarding it outside the office, and it's become a book. And I think it's become several books actually. It's pretty interesting. I suggest people go and check it out.
That's
Um,
cool. I'll have to tell our CEO to really put some pressure on, right? Like just when you get the pattern down with communicating with our global offices and our global team, now let's go public with it. I think that'd be great.
yeah, yeah, it's cool. I think there's several hundred thousand people that subscribe to it, and it's phenomenal branding for them. I'm sure it helps with recruiting and everything else. One last question here, just like let's say you ran into an HR leader at the line of your favorite coffee shop and you had to give them, 90 seconds of advice of stuff to focus on next year due to all these statistics. Like, what would you tell them?
I think I would first of all empathize because I would assume that they're probably feeling a lot of pressure. That we know from HR folks that the traditional ways of doing things are less agile than they feel they need to be. And so letting them know they're in a shared space with others that are challenged by it. But I think the theme we're hearing from all of this research is finding ways to support the well-being of your people. And of course, we turn to recognition because it is such a, I mean, the science of recognition points to it as being your biggest motivator, and it supports reduced stress and increased cardiac functioning and all kinds of lovely things. But it's almost like whereas you used to think culture was the bedrock, now it's like well being. Are people getting what they need? Whether that's the mental well being, the physical well being, the financial well being, that what used to be the cherry on top almost now needs to be the foundation of your people systems, and finding ways to support that. And importantly, finding ways for your employees to support each other, for your managers to support your employees. So it's no longer can be just the HR person taking care of people. It needs to be making sure that everyone is taking care of each other. One of the statistics we've seen stay consistent over the last 3 years is what is it that is a must have for employees from their employer? The top one has been fair pay. It continues to be fair pay. But the second one has consistently been a manager that cares about me. And we may have managers or leaders that didn't grow up in that kind of leadership environment, that were not inspired by leaders that put caring first. But that's really the order of the day. That more than half of employees surveyed said that the second thing for them is a manager that cares. So, how do we take that pressure off of HR and find ways to get managers to directly demonstrate that to their employees? That's going to be key.
I love it. It resonates a lot with me for many different perspectives. I think somebody who's so burnt out that they might be a cynic might say, well, that's a bunch of, millennial, Gen Z, blah, blah, blah. But like the reality is like this is just everybody. And you
Yes.
can feel good because you're making everybody feel better, but you can also feel good because like you're helping your company have a more productive, engaged workforce that's going to lead to better results. So Alex, thank you so much for sharing your insights here. And where can people go to learn more about these statistics?
Yeah, if you go to rewardgateway.com, we have a place you can sign up there for our blog, a short link, rg.com /blog. We are really focused on research. We had a burnout report that came out earlier this year. Our employee engagement trends for 2023 is coming out this week in the US. So if you go out there and sign up for the blog, you'll hear case studies, but you'll also get some insight into this research. What we've heard is that it's helping people set themselves up for success. They're able to get a sense for the fact that they're amongst a group of people that are experiencing similar things, and they're able to advocate to senior leadership to get the kind of resources they need, even if they have a reduced workforce or a limited budget, to support their people.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah, you bet. Thanks so much, Phil.